local leadership. Just a little housekeeping. Bathrooms are outside to the left of the elevators for the ladies, to the right for George. Hey, George. We don't have a gender-neutral bathroom. So I do want to thank our 2024 Women Local Leadership sponsors. Comsint, there's companies, our lead sponsor. Ailey, Cardinal Cushing, I think there's somebody from Cardinal Cushing, yep, too. Friendship Home, raise your hand, out back in the corner. Enbridge, Gibbs Software Solutions, yep. Marine Max, Boston, George Washington Toma, Leone Marketing Solutions, PR First, Nicole, and Tiny and Sons Autobot. Our 2025 sponsorship brochure will be coming out probably next week, maybe? So if this is of interest, by all means, keep an eye out for that. We are being recorded, so everyone behave. We will have a little bit of time at the end for questions, so we'll try to keep to the 10:15. So thank you again for being here. I want to introduce Sarah Farris. Sorry, George, after all that. Hold on. George, we'd love to hear you say something about your company.
Well, now that I know you're recording, I have to change my whole thing.
Maybe she hasn't hit record yet.
I did.
So I just want to thank everybody. I love this program. I've been involved with the Chamber over 40 years. I was on the board for 10 years, and when I first joined the board, it was all old white guys in suits, and there might have been one woman, I don't remember. And then when I was the chair, we had a couple of meetings where more than 50% of the room was women. So I love this. I have two daughters in their 30s who are very successful and very proud of. I made the mistake after the second one was born, saying to my wife, you know, we should try for a boy to run the business. I got a 2-hour lecture on how to turn it faster, smarter, better. So I'm very, very happy to be involved, and I love smart. Yes. Thank you. And
Thank you.
my hearing today, because I'm old, I'm going to move up front if you don't mind.
Now, thank you, George. We know you are very, very generous across the South Shore. We appreciate you. So again, thank you and welcome. I want to introduce Sarah Farris. She is the Account Director at Comsint. Sarah is a seasoned marketing and communications professional with over a decade of experience in content strategy, media relations, and account management. Currently serving as an Account Director at Comsint, she specializes in managing complex client relationships, developing targeted messaging, and executing strategic campaigns that drive brand visibility and engagement. Sarah works with clients in a variety of industries, including legal services, financial services, biotech, and outdoor recreation. Prior to her work in marketing and public relations, Sarah worked in K-12 and higher education. She holds a master's in teaching from Emmanuel College and a Bachelor of Arts in English from Northeastern University. She lives and works in Norwell with her 3 children. So thank you for being here. I'm going to keep the door open because it is warm. So.
Thank you for having us today, and I'm very excited to introduce Carlie. Carlie graduated from Santa Clara University in Santa Clara, California in 2013, where she received a degree in Communications and Business Administration. After graduating, Carlie joined E&J Gallo, the largest family-owned winery in the world. In her 8 years at E&J Gallo, Carlie has held several roles in Northern California and more recently in Massachusetts. Her many roles have included state manager, managing 35 sales professionals across California, fine wine and spirits manager, where she received her CSW, Certified Specialist of Wine, and CSS, Certified Specialist of Spirits, and business development manager of Massachusetts. In 2018, Carlie moved from San Francisco to her hometown of Hingham, Massachusetts, with her husband to start a family. After welcoming her second child, Carlie left E&J Gallo and began working for her family business, the Breyer Group, which owns and operates 14 restaurants and business in the surrounding suburbs. Carlie is proud to be a part of a third-generation family-owned business. She currently works part-time on the marketing team at the Breyer Group, while also spending time at home raising her 3 children. So thank you, Carlie, for spending time with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Great. So we're going to start with just hearing a little bit about your career journey. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I've been from the South Shore, born and raised in Hingham, Massachusetts, And growing up in Hingham, I think there's so many great colleges around here, and I was deciding between BC. I thought I was going to go to BC. I have a lot of family that went there, but I decided I really wanted to spend time in another state and experience another part of the country. So I made the move to go to Santa Clara University in California. A bold move, but it was incredibly rewarding for me. I loved my time out there, and ended up deciding to stay out there and start my career out there. So growing up, I knew that I figured I might want to work for the family business eventually. As a communications in business major, I wanted to choose a job that would help me, and the skill set would translate into working in the restaurant industry. I had heard that E&J Gallo Winery has one of the best sales leadership development programs in the country, very well nationally known, and what it does is kind of give you that management experience from a very young age, and everyone from the company starts at the ground level and works their way up. So I knew, okay, well, that sounds good. That would be translating skills to the Breyer Group if I worked there, and I also knew that I loved wine. So that it worked out well. I was recruited by E&J Gallo in the sales leadership program and moved to San Francisco and started working as a sales rep. And then I had about 7 different roles there in about 8.5 years. From management, I think I became a district manager, managing a team of like 8 sales reps. Then moved on to managing a team of 3 managers and the people under them. So it was about like 65 people. And then I had some really fun jobs working as the state manager of California. So I called on every restaurant, hotel in the state, managing teams and selling our wine portfolio to all off-premise accounts. I did the same thing for spirits for a little bit. And then it was a great career for me. It really shaped my experience. And I met my husband when I was a sales rep at Gallo selling wine. He grew up in Napa. And I convinced him that I knew I was coming back to the South Shore. I'm the oldest of 5 kids in my family, and we're a very tight-knit family, and I knew that I wanted to ultimately come and raise a family in the South Shore and eventually work for the family business. So I convinced him to come back to the East Coast, which was great for me because not many people I've learned now leave Napa. I guess I get it, why you wouldn't leave Napa. And then Gallo ended up transferring me out here. In my last role with Gallo, I was the state manager of Massachusetts, so I controlled all of the retail and on-premise accounts in the state, calling on the distributor out here, which is Martinetti. So it was an awesome job. I had my daughter in 2019, and then after I had my son Liam in 2021, I was able to take about 8 months of maternity leave, which was awesome. I had Gallo has a great maternity leave, which is amazing, and I had a ton of PTO, which was great. I felt very blessed to be able to spend that time with my kids. And then around that time, I remember seeing, I saw an article that said that in Hingham that the Boston Beer Works was closing. And I remember forwarding it to my dad and was like, Dad, maybe we should buy this. This could be good. It's a good location. And he was like, oh, we'll talk in a few days. I'm looking at it. I'm in the process. So it ended up working out that around that time he said, I think it's the right time to come in, and I want you to help me open this restaurant. So it was hard to leave Gallo. I mean, I had such an unbelievable career there, but I think they knew the writing on the walls too, that eventually I probably would go work for the family business. And my worlds are still colliding with them. I still call on them a lot and work with a lot of my old friends and coworkers, which is great. But that's where I'm at now, and I made the decision to, like you mentioned, it was important to me to still spend time with my kids. They're almost 5, 3, and 1, so I'm in the thick of it, and I feel blessed to be able to spend some time with them, but also contribute to the company.
So it's really rare, and I'm not sure everyone knows this, but it's very rare for a family-owned business to go into a third generation. I think it's something like 5-10% succeed into the third generation. So talk a little bit about why it was so important for you to be part of the third generation of the Breyer Group, and what's making the difference in keeping you family-owned and super successful.
Sure. I'll start by saying I think the family business is very special to me. It started with my grandfather, and he emigrated to America from Ireland just really in search of a better life. he saved up enough money working like all day and night in construction, and eventually saved up enough money to open up the first Irish pub. My dad was living in California at the time. He called my dad back and said, hey, I want you to come move back here, move back home, and help me open this Irish pub. And now my dad is really the one that kind of started that and took the business of our group to the next level and really expanded it. But my grandfather started that foundation, and that hard work that's really stayed and been the core values of the Briar Group. So it really started with him. I think seeing my grandfather's passion and seeing my dad's passion really inspired me, and I knew that this is something special, and I definitely want to be a part of it. I worked in as a bartender and a server when I was in college, and in high school. I feel like hospitality has always been in my blood, and I knew that eventually I wanted to be a part of it. I will say I think what's made the Briar Group stand out and what my dad has done has been very intentional. There's a story about my grandfather. He, growing up in Ireland, the oldest son gets the farm. That's just what happens. And him, my grandfather's oldest brothers, battled and fought over the farm and ended up, losing a relationship. And my grandfather always said that to brought up that story to my dad and his 3 siblings. And it was always so important to him that family first. So my dad ended up having the opportunity to buy out his siblings a lot of years back, and that really worked out very well on all sides. And it's always been family first. None of his other siblings were involved in the business either. And I think that my dad's really taken that into account too. I mean, we've had a family business counselor for years. I remember being I was probably 16, so that means my younger siblings were a lot younger, and going to a family business meeting, but it was just my siblings, so the 5 of us and my parents and this counselor, and, asking our hopes and dreams of the future, and it felt like very overkill at the time, but I think it did the right thing. And with that intention, I mean, there's a series of prerequisites if you're going to enter the family business. For example, it's working 5 to 7 years in a relevant industry to be able to gain skills and bring it back to the Briar Group. But also that's really helped the transition, having that credibility before you come in, because as an owner you have a lot of eyes on you, and what you say holds weight. And I think that's why a lot of businesses in 3rd generation, they come in as very entitled sometimes, and you think it's going to be handed to you. So I think that's something that has really helped the transition. My brother works for the family business as well, and my sister is working part-time now as she's in between jobs, and then my other brother's coming in January. So I think that's been something that's been very, very positive for us.
So exciting. I love the idea of the staff meetings just being kind of a family reunion.
Yeah, you're at a restaurant, and then it's your whole family, and then some guy in a suit.
Right? That's so fun.
Yeah.
I love that. So let's talk a little bit about leadership. What does it mean to you, and who can you point to in your life as an example of good leadership?
I think a good leader, first and foremost, has a lot of empathy. I think that's one of my biggest things, walk a mile in someone else's shoes, and never asks their team or someone to do something that they wouldn't have done themselves. I think a good leader too, this is always one that was important for me, is doesn't take credit all that often in terms of team things. Even if it was your idea, you're always building up your team and saying it was a team success. And on that note, I think taking when things go haywire and you're managing a lot of people, taking accountability for that, especially in a public setting, that was always really big to me too. And having the one-on-one conversations, one-on-one behind closed doors with someone on your team, rather than ever calling that out in a public setting. I think that's a sign of a good leader. I think, of course, someone has to steer the ship, so setting very clear vision and direction is very important, and also giving feedback. I think especially the younger generation, it's has such a need for feedback, and they really need positive and negative to move forward. So I think that's a sign of a great leader too. And I think just making your people know that you care. I think it's so I remember having a million priorities and being so busy, and you just want to start delegating and telling them what we need to do. But first and foremost, like remembering what's important in in everyone's life. You know, asking how's your grandmother doing and all of this individually before starting to try to talk about business objectives. That's what I think a sign of a good leader, because then it helps build the trust and connection, and in the end, people end up working harder for you because they know that you care and you're there to support them. I remember I feel like I've had one female boss, and then it's been males, but I think it was the first boss I had. She the first stage in the wine industry, it's like really early mornings, like 5:30, 6 a.m. And sometimes when you sell in these wine displays, you actually have to go and like build them. It's a lot of physical work for that first step. And this manager would just show up whenever, without saying that she was coming. She lived like 2 hours away, and she would just walk into whatever account I was at and really help me do like the dirty work and the physical work. And I always remember that because it made me, I learned so much from her, and I wanted to do the same when I was managing people. But always showing up and offering help. And I think just always showing that you care is something that I really learned from her.
I love that. Switching gears a little bit, the restaurant industry and the wine industry is definitely male-dominated. And you came in and you worked your way up through E&J Gallo and moving into the Breyer Group. What are some of the challenges that you faced in those experiences, and kind of how did you overcome them?
Yes, very male-dominated. I think in a lot of my jobs with Gallo, I was either the only woman on the team or I was managing mostly all men, which was definitely challenging. I think especially in some of my roles, I was managing people that were a lot older than me. So here comes this young girl coming in. I've been running my business for this many years. Why are you going to tell me what to do? And I think I've learned that as a female coming in, it's that balancing that, you need to have that authoritative voice, and you set the standard from day one, from the beginning. And I think what really helped me is trying to figure out like what each person wanted and what they needed help with, and offering my time in that way, having the I'm here to help you, and I'm here, I'm going to get down in the trenches with you, I'm here to help, but really having that like authoritative voice, and I had to hold my own, and if I didn't, I'd get walked all over. Having that authoritative voice and setting the standard, and from the very beginning, I think a lot of, in some of the jobs, it wasn't all of them, I was managed, some of the guys were, 50 years old, and just making sure that any comments or anything that doesn't align with me and it's borderline inappropriate, you're shutting it down from the get-go, that like, that's not how it's going to be. If you don't hold your own, I think in that, it really taught me to have thick skin. But I think also a lack of confidence is something that I think women in leadership today definitely face. I think, there was times where I'd question myself, did I come on, I had to like fire people before, and like, it's not fun, it sucks, and, did I come on too strong there, or should I have done this, should I have done that? And I think that's women in society today, we question ourselves a lot, and it definitely is, I think it's easier for us too. And I think that can, have some roadblocks too in terms of leadership. And I think that's something that I realized too. Like, men just don't question themselves as much in that sort of area. But being as confident as you can and holding your own is I think pretty important.
In those moments when you were, navigating kind of those more challenging experiences, and then also when you were kind of questioning yourself, who did you turn to for support or for guidance?
I turned to a lot of my friends in Gallo that were female leaders as well, and you're calling them and you're asking that. I was asking them for advice because we've all in the wine industry too. We were all in similar roles, and being able to bounce ideas off each other or just vent and say like, can you believe that this happened and this person said that, and what would you do? Because sometimes you need to take it. Just the best thing you can do is like take a deep breath, take a step back, but I am still best friends with all of my, a lot of my friends from Gallo, and I'm the only one that is no longer with the company, and I think that says a lot, a lot of people about Gallo too. A lot of people switch around in a lot of different roles, and they've been there for like 10 plus years. So I think it's very important, as for females to have that allyship and to have those people that you go to when you need to be built up, you need advice. I think that's very important.
Thinking about what you learned as you were growing your leadership skills, how did you learn how to, one thing I was really struck by as I was looking at your resume was how quickly you started managing people. It was really far down at the bottom of the resume where you started in that leadership role, and that must have been intimidating but also exciting. Kind of how did you learn how to be a more effective leader through all those experiences?
Yeah, good question. I learned that I really needed to, I had, female, male, different ages, but figuring out what each person was motivated by was crucial. Some of the people were motivated, I think a lot of people are motivated by money, but also some are motivated by recognition, sending an email to the whole company on a success that someone on my team had. Some people are motivated by that. Some people, it'd be like, hey, you did an amazing job. Here's a $100 gift card to this restaurant down the street. Go take your wife out to dinner, something like that. Or time off. Thank you so much for your hard work with X, Y, and Z. Like, don't bother coming in on Friday. Like, take the day. Figuring out which made each person tick, and then being able to help them continue that and motivate them through that made it a lot easier for me, because then they're working harder and they're getting more done. I also think I learned when I started managing managers, so managing managers was a lot different than managing sales reps. When I was managing sales reps, you're just like constantly putting out fires. When you're managing managers, I was responsible for their development so that they could effectively manage the people under them. And it's a stressful industry, and there were so many times where I could just tell them what to do or be like, this is the answer. But it's like the quote that I remember hearing at like way back when. It's give a man fish, he eats for a day. Teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. And it is really true. Easier said than done when you're in that high pressure situation. But I learned that if I could take the time to teach them and show them the way, these managers, rather than giving them the answer, then they were going to do that with the people under them. They each had 10 sales reps, and then everyone is doing it, and it's honestly was paid dividends for me in the end. It was less work for me in the end. So that was something that was really helpful to learn. Didn't always do it, but tried to.
Talk about a little bit, switching gears, a big transition in your life. Moving back from California, and it's nice that you have a spot to go in Napa.
Yes.
Reasons to go back regularly.
Yes.
How did that change? What was a big change during that time, and how did you navigate it?
Yes. I think for me, I learned that personal happiness in my personal life had to be the most important, and I think I learned early on at Gallo. I remember getting settled in San Francisco, and my friends and family are back home too, so it was already a big move for me. And I got a call, and I got offered a promotion to go to Las Vegas and run the restaurants in Vegas. And I was like probably like 22, 23. I'm like, what? I just got my apartment. Like, why are they asking me to do this? And a lot of my friends and coworkers were like, you got to go. That's an unbelievable opportunity. And I remember being like, I can't do that. I'm not doing that. And respectfully declined it. And I remember being like, and that's okay. Maybe it would take me a little bit longer for the next promotion, but that's okay, because my personal happiness comes first. I think that's a skill and something that I've always stayed true to, and know that I will perform better when I'm in a good place personally. For a transition, I think when I came back to Boston area and was calling on the distributors and managing the state of Massachusetts, I had my daughter, and I worked full time, and I worked, I was used to always working so many hours. I didn't have kids, and it was easy to just say yes, sure, I'll do it. Like, They jump, you say how high. And then when I had a kid, it changed everything for me. And my priorities really had to shift. And I was saying, I'm off at 5 o'clock. Like, when they're little, they go to bed at 7. I'm like, I have 2 hours. They wake up at 7, they go to bed at 7. I'm like, I have such minimal time in the day to actually be with my daughter that I learned how to say no to things and not feel guilty about it and really own it. And, it got really easier to do it once I started doing it and not apologizing for it. I did my job very effectively, and I'm, not taking that meeting, or I can't jump on that call. And really, that gave me more confidence, and it also helped me to be more efficient in my workday, because time is a luxury, and getting everything I need to during the traditional workday so that I can be with my kids in the evening. And I think that skill, it was like scary for me at first, because I wasn't used to it. I'm like, oh, is this going to change people's perception? And absolutely not. And I think, owning it was pretty rewarding too, and it didn't hinder my career at all. And I think that skill has definitely stayed with me. I mean, it's definitely now working for my family business. I'll say that line is definitely different, because I'm always on. I care so much. It's my family's company. But I still have that same, and I remember, like, if it's not going to align with my values, and if it's not going to, I'm not going to directly add value to it, then it's okay to say no, it doesn't work for me.
I love that. No is a complete sentence, and I feel like that's something that women in leadership and women everywhere.
It's true.
We're still learning.
Still learning.
Still learning. But I love that. As we get older and have more opportunities and more privileges, we're really exercising that.
Yes.
How do you see your role at the Breyer Group evolving over the next few years?
So, right now, I know that I'm going to take on a larger leadership role in the company. I think the question is just when. Being the oldest of 5 in my family, I just used to the chaos, and I love the chaos, so I think I want one more kid. So that's I've always wanted 4. It's funny, my family's like, because I've always been, I have like short age gaps. I'm like, I just needed a minute. Give me a minute. But I think that's always been my priority is having a family. And I think it could go in a number of directions. One thing that I'm involved with now is helping on the growth piece. We're a growing company, and that's been really fun for me, and working closely with my brother on what concepts make sense in urban or suburban areas. I think that's something that I'm involved with now, but I'll continue to do. And whether it's moving up, taking on a larger leadership role in the marketing role or communications or something else, I'm not exactly sure. But I know that I'll take a larger leadership role, and I just feel very blessed to be able to be doing both right now. And though I don't have, I'm not managing people directly now, I am an owner, and I have the leadership role in that too. So we'll see where the future takes me.
I know. I like that. I like to envision your 3 little ones sitting at a table, learning about their hopes and dreams.
Yeah.
Having that same kind of experience
over dinner.
Yeah. And just, but I think it's a lot. You were brought up in this, it's more, when it's a family business, it's more than just a business. It's a lifestyle.
It is.
And you are raising the 4th generation, and that's really exciting. So the opportunities that they're going to be exposed to is really, really cool.
No, it is. And they'll be, I think, I can't wait till, I remember when I was 7, I think you have to be 18 to serve? Yeah, 18 to serve, alcohol to serve. And I wanted to, of course, get a job in the restaurant business, but I knew I didn't want to start working at one of the restaurants because I wanted to be the best server there ever was. So I worked for years at, you guys probably know, Jake's in Hull, Jake's Seafood. And then when I was like, okay, I'm really good at this, then went to work at Anthem. Yeah. But I think I can't wait to. My kids will. My husband and I always say, I think working in the restaurant industry teaches you so many valuable skills, and it helped me get working in the service industry. Definitely helped me get my sales job and get into the leadership role at Gallo. So I'm like, I can't wait till as soon as they're old enough, get in restaurants and work.
Right, I know. And I think just, again, that having that 360 view, right? Mm-hmm. You've worked in every role in the business, right? So you really can see it holistically, which is exciting. So the last question is a little bit more topical and timely. There's an election in just a couple of weeks, in case anyone forgot, and there's a ballot question that could have significant impacts on restaurants. Can you give us a brief overview of the ballot question? And I would love to hear, just kind of the nuts and bolts of the question, and then also what kind of conversations are you having about it, and then what are you hearing about it? So I think there's, you kind of are in these two different worlds where you're hearing from your, peers in leadership, but also you're surrounded by servers and people that it's going to directly impact. So I would love to hear a little bit of the inside scoop there.
Yes. First of all, I was at a mass restaurant event like a year ago, and they briefly talked about it, but people were pretty confident that this question wouldn't even make it to the ballot. So the fact that it's here, I'm like, wow. So I'll start by saying it's started by an outside activist group in California, so a group that knows nothing about Massachusetts. And what they're proposing is to raise the minimum wage for tipped employees. They have a lot of money, a lot of marketing money behind this, and I've seen the commercials, and what's funny is they've done a really good job of making it seem like super warm and fuzzy. Who wouldn't want fair wages? I've even seen the commercials, and I'm like, they're making it sound different than it actually is. So they proposed to raise the minimum wage for all tipped employees. What that would do would mean that all the servers and bartenders wouldn't be getting tips. They create their livelihood on tips. They make so much more in tips than they would as a minimum wage worker. And basically, this would really be devastating to restaurants, because not only would you have to pay, like restaurants obviously operate on really thin margins as it is, but those servers and bartenders, they're the ones that don't want this the most. If they have to pool tips and not getting the tips, then a lot of people would have to stop working in the service industry. Restaurants would have to face a lot of layoffs. You wouldn't be able to afford to pay as many people, so we'd have to lay people off. And what it would also mean is it would mean a lot more fees for customers. You would have to raise menu prices, and then also do potentially like a service fee, like a fair wage service fee at the bill, because you would have to, that's what restaurants would have to do. So I think it would just be devastating, I think, for a lot of people. And the biggest thing you can do is talk to your local servers and bartenders and see what they have to say. They don't want it at all. It'd be devastating for them, and it would totally change the restaurants in the state. I have a friend that works in D.C. in the industry. They passed a similar thing, and it's been really devastating for D.C. restaurants. So a lot have closed, and I definitely think restaurants in Massachusetts would close. A lot have closed, but you go into your favorite restaurant in D.C., she said, usually, there's always a full bar. They used to have 3 or 4 bartenders, now there's 1. So you're waiting an hour to get a drink. Then your drink is more expensive. There's a service. It's not good for really anybody. And I think watching what has happened in D.C. is hard. I'm like, we hopefully can't let that happen here. So I would definitely encourage you to do your research and to vote no on question 5. It really would be devastating for everybody, but most especially the servers and bartenders, who they're claiming would help it. It's not going to. So.
That's interesting, and I do like the idea of, talking to your local servers, hearing from people, boots on the ground, who most of us, we're lucky enough to go out to restaurants, but if you're in that service industry, chat with them, see what they say.
That's the biggest thing, see what they say.
I paid my way through college.
Yes, has anyone else worked in restaurants? Okay, so you guys, wait, I love it. What a big, see, you guys get it. That's your livelihood, and even the idea of just taking that away is just the thing that's scary, though, and that's why I really ask you to talk to your servers and bartenders, talk to your friends and family. If you're looking at the ballot, how they phrase it, fair wage ballot. Why wouldn't you would think, that sounds great. I want everyone to have a fair wage. It's so misleading. So that's why we're trying to spread the word as much as possible, because if you haven't heard about this, and I think you just might click yes, because you don't know. It's the way that they're manipulating the word, which is kind of scary. So
thank you for sharing that insight.
No,
I think it's really helpful to, just have another perspective. It's always good to have, especially in these crazy times, as many data points as possible to make informed decisions. Thank you so much for this conversation. I think, do we have some time for Q&A? who has some questions for Carlie? Yeah.
Hi, my name's Eleanor, and I had the great fortune of working for your father.
I love that.
Oh my God! Yes, as a consultant, I was a customer service consultant years ago, and it was fantastic. And so I do want to mention one, because I worked with a lot of family restaurants. I can't think of one other than Friar Group that still exists, by the way.
Oh, wow.
So just let you know that.
Wow.
But I will say that we had great conversations. He was continuously looking to improve and learn. I know because he took a class because I do a big thing about it's not what you say, it's how you say it, with service especially and bartenders. And he took a class at Northeastern just about that subject. So we would have great conversations or whatever else. So I just want to say, truly, he has always been the never resting on your laurels, always that kind of thing. So kudos. Although I am upset with him that he didn't buy my restaurant. No. That's awesome. Fantastic. But I put this out to you. This is my thing, and not to put any pressure on you. This is my issue with the industry. And one thing is I will say is I never would have been able to go to college and totally 100% support myself unless it was for the restaurant industry. And yeah, I mean, because I came from a very low-income family and such. This is the problem. The industry continues to drive away incredibly great women managers. And the reason is because still, and I was hoping COVID would sort of fix it, but quite the opposite happened because a lot of small restaurants disappeared and these huge conglomerates gobbled up and they work at such a different level. That what happens is that women get to a certain point and they want to have a family. They want to have children, whatever else. And so many of the industry demand these ridiculous hours and this ridiculous schedule and the holidays and everything else. And I tried for years. Now, I'm hoping that, because I'm an old person, that maybe things have changed enough. And I would always say to people, to managers and to owners, listen to me. See that one job that you have her working basically almost 80 hours? You hire two. And they're like, we can't hire, the salary. They go, no, hear me out. I said, you hire two. I said, you're not doubling the salary because now you have two people taking one job. But obviously you want to give them a good incentive. So you give two-thirds, so to speak. So yes, you're saying, okay, I'm going to invest another third. But I said, but the quality of the work and the dedication and their ability to manage, because people don't realize, as much as our society puts their nose down on working in the industry, there isn't one skill that you learn in the restaurant industry that is not transferable. I mean, you learn everything. So it just really upsets me that we're not investing in these incredible women managers, because at the end of the day, women managers, as far as in the restaurant industry, especially when you're talking about youngins that don't know how to punch in, or they say, yeah, but my coach said, like you've been on the schedule for 2 weeks, that kind of stuff. So I just think women are so good at the industry and so wonderful, and we've really lost a lot. But we still don't do that. We're still not saying, how do we get our managers, at a point, especially women managers, to be able to have this balance. Instead of working 80 hours work, being able to work 30 hours or whatever, and the other, or 35, and the other one worked 35, they would be thrilled, between them, even sharing, whether it's a holiday or whatever else. So I need you to do that.
No pressure, Carlie. Just completely change the culture of this industry, okay? Just you.
All right, I got it.
Go ahead.
Yes, really. I just am amazed at how many, and in my own family alone, of the most amazing female managers in the restaurant industry, but it was a thing. Quality of life, or being able to be with their families or be around or whatever else, and they just couldn't do it. And they love the industry, but the industry doesn't love them.
It's tough. I will say we are pretty lucky at the Friar Group. We have a good amount of female managers, and the foundation of our company and why we're able to grow and have 13 different restaurants is people first. it's true. And, you know, Christy Gracie right here, she's worked for the Briar Group for about 12 years, and I know she can attest to that. And we're successful because of our people and because of our managers. So we give a lot of leeway to them, and we have a lot of women that are moms, and they don't miss soccer games and stuff because we don't have one manager for a restaurant. We have like 3.
Yes.
So they're able to, with the schedule, and especially a lot of our managers have been with us for 20 years.
And one thing I wanted to add is last year there was 3 promotions that the Briar Group gave, and all 3 of those were to women in leadership roles, myself being one of them. So that was
See, like myself, I never had children, so getting promoted in the industry was not an issue for me because, like you were saying, I could go, whatever, you know. I mean, for me, this is the first time. I mean, I'm basically, you know, this is sort of a retirement gig, but I work full time at Cushing. And I am still just awed of the fact that I only work 40 hours a week. I mean, I'm just like, whoa. But what I'm saying is that given your family and whatever else, I think there's an opportunity, or I would hope there's an opportunity to almost do like best practices or offer that ability to other restaurant groups or other restaurants on how this is done or why this works. Because oftentimes they do just look at the numbers up front and they just, no, we can't.
Right. No, it's good, and you know what? The restaurant industry is changing, and we're keeping up. And if you don't jump on the bandwagon, you're not going to be successful too. So no, that's a great point.
Yeah, I think it sounds really like the Briar Group is leading by example, and I think that's the best thing we can do. A lot of times, you know, we can't go into every individual restaurant group and tell them what for, but we can show them that you can be successful while you are people first and while you're promoting women and capable leaders regardless of experience.
Yeah, one more thing that I do want to add too, because I think we talk a lot about, you know, male leadership versus female leadership. We do have a male leadership at the Briar Group, but what I will say about them is they're gentlemen, so they don't just make sure I have a seat at the table, they make sure it's a comfortable seat, and they don't just say what they think, they ask me what I think. You know, as a woman who's worked there since I was 19, and I haven't been 19 for some time, so it's been a little while for me, I've always felt like I had a voice there. That's just my own experience. I started as a host, and now I'm in business development, so I could go on and on about the O'Connor family as well as the Briar Group, but just really positive feedback for me.
So just to go back to the thing of what women will do and what women don't do. When a man does something truly successful, like, for instance, say, have all these women that stayed with them because they allowed for the quality of life and for them to have children or whatever else, they look at it and say, wait a minute, we have something that we can sell to other people, like Myers in New York. I mean, he's done books, he's done, you know, you can take an entire, basically, industry classes with him, you know what I mean? So I'm saying this may be something in your growth that you can offer know-how to others, is what I'm saying.
No, definitely.
I mean, it's sort of the pat yourself on the back, you know, and no offense to men, obviously. You know, I mean,
Poor George has the weight of the entire male-dominated industry on his shoulders.
I'm going to move to the back.
Oh, God, thank goodness. You got an ally.
It goes back to the confidence.
Any other questions from the audience?
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
I have one. I'll stand up because I'm short. My name's Tammy with Campus Operations. I'm not from the South Shore. I'm from the North Shore, and a very weird place for everyone. My family does own a restaurant. We just celebrated 80 years.
Oh my God! Congratulations.
So all this stuff, I was like, yes. And then I'm really happy my 16-year-old just got his first job as a busser at Hamilton. So I'm like, here you go, girl, you got this.
That's awesome.
One of the things I've always, I guess, struggled with is, like, I mean, my grandmother never worked anywhere her whole life. My mom never worked anywhere her whole life. This really was truly like a family business. Was kind of the outside people who are not in the industry or maybe weren't ever part of an industry always kind of looked at those jobs like not a real job. That was always so crappy to me, you know? Because I'm like, that's where you learn all those like awesome people skills. Like, what's kind of like your take on that? Because obviously you're taking on other roles that are, you know, more than management and stuff, or
it's so funny. I mean, I think it's such bullshit, right? I think it really is, for lack of a better word. It's the hardest job, but it's also, you know, it teaches you lifelong skills, right? And I have friends that have their MBA that were two of my best friends that were picking up serving jobs in the meantime to make money, and they never did it. They still are servers and bartenders because it's an incredibly rewarding career, you know, and it's financially it can make a lot of sense, right? And I think a lot of people just don't get it. And I think like going to you know, being involved in like the Mass Restaurant Association and Women in Hospitality, there's some groups like that it's so empowering being with people that come from a restaurant background too. And I would just remember like you're doing, having your kids, your daughter be a busser, she's going to be better prepared for the real world in her job than anybody else that's not. And it creates a foundation for hard work that I don't think translates, and you can't get that same experience in other jobs. So I'm like, you gotta own it, right? And 80 years is pretty amazing. That's congratulations.
You talked about when you had your first daughter and you learned how to start saying no, and at 5 o'clock you were out the door. You owned it, but what was the reaction in the beginning from your male counterparts who were not doing that? I mean, you owned it, which is amazing. Yeah. But did you get any flack for it?
It's that feeling guilty, right? Like I remember feeling so guilty when I had to tell them that I'm pregnant again after 18 months. Like I'm like, waited till like I really couldn't hide it anymore because I had so much stress about telling my male boss, and I'm like, I shouldn't feel that, right? About having a kid. And I remember when he reacted, it was so positive, but it's like, oh, and by the way, I'm going to be off for like 6 months now. So I think they totally got it, and I think I built it up in my mind more, and I was expecting a bigger reaction out of it. And they really had the mindset of like, Carlie, hey, we get it. Like we're dads, we get it. You know, as long as you get the job done, we don't care. And there were times that I was always, you know, not letting business slip. For me, I sometimes had to jump on my computer at, you know, 9 o'clock and do one thing or two, but I had those hours. So it was way more built up in my mind, and I think I was very relieved when I finally started saying that and getting comfortable. And
Did you have anybody who did push back? Like, did you have any negative interaction? I mean, I think it's great that everyone in Gallo was so accepting.
They were.
I don't know that that's always the experience. And obviously you can only speak to your experience, which is fantastic that it was so positive, but did anybody push back? Did you have to kind of be like, nope, this is what we're doing?
I did I remember it was like in the beginning of COVID and having a newborn, and I'm like, I am certainly not going out. My baby was, you know, and also being pregnant. Like that's when you didn't know. Like there was all these risks with pregnant people, and it was the start of it. So I did get pushback. I remember being like, I'm not going to those all-person sales meetings in these tiny rooms with all of you people. Like it's not going to work for me. And I did get pushback then. And I think like, you know, a lot of people that work in the liquor industry too, it's like it's a grind, and they're doing it, and they're like, well, there were so many unknowns with COVID, but being like, oh, come on, like she's taking the easy way out. I remember feeling that, and getting a little bit of pushback. Again, not from everybody, but I'm like, of course, owned it, and you have to do what's best for you. And I think that the people, the decision makers that really mattered were allies to me. They were on my side. You would always get like here and there, I feel like, some pushback from the feet on the street, but no, it's a good question.
Yeah, no, I think it's so much. I think we create the barriers in our own heads, but I also think it's just like, I love your attitude of just shutting it down the first time. You know, like immediately, like we're not waiting. We're not going to give you the benefit of the doubt. We're going to set our boundary, and we're just gonna go from there.
Yeah.
I want to be sensitive to everyone's time, but thank you both for being here. Carlie did bring some postcards for, I think it's a free app. That's the best.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
Take one, and
Yeah.
more time to network and whatnot. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Carlie.
Yes.
Yeah.